Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a close look at something really crucial, the qualifications and some specific claims around the recent nomination for U.S. Surgeon General. We're focusing on an article by Professor Lin from June 2nd, 2025. It's titled, "Is Kathy Means, the nominee for U.S. Surgeon General, qualified? What is the purpose of the line message?"
Exactly. And our goal here really is to unpack the facts. We want to challenge some of the misinformation that's out there and highlight why thinking critically is just so essential in public health. Professor Lin's piece, it really zooms in on this one message that went viral, apparently on the Line app, about the nominee, Casey Means.
Okay, yeah, let's start right there because that message has a pretty striking quote from Casey Means. It says, 5 days without sleep, blood sugar will appear in a pre-diabetic state. This is basic science. But in the entire medical school education, I have never heard anyone talk about the health mechanism of sleep. Now, for you listening, I mean, 5 days without sleep sounds extreme, right? And
Yeah.
pre-diabetic means, well, higher blood sugar, not quite diabetes yet.
Right. But what's really fascinating and honestly a bit alarming is how Professor Lin tackles this. He didn't just, offer an opinion. He went straight to the Public Medical Library PubMed, basically the main database for medical research, and he just searched for sleep.
Okay, and what came up?
Well, this is the kicker. He found over 330,000 published papers on sleep.
300,000.
Yeah, over 330,000, dating from 1810 right up to May 2025. So the claim that medical school education never mentions sleep, it just completely falls apart. It's not just like a small mistake. It suggests a really fundamental misunderstanding or maybe, misrepresentation of medical science.
Especially from someone nominated for Surgeon General.
Exactly. That kind of basic scientific inaccuracy, it can really damage public trust in evidence-based health information.
Yeah, that initial claim and the debunking, it really sets a tone. But Professor Lin didn't stop there, did he? He looked into her actual background, her qualifications.
That's right. And what he found raises, well, even more questions about suitability for the role. So Means does have a medical degree, that's clear. But Professor Lin notes she withdrew from her residency program.
Meaning she never finished her specialty training or practiced independently.
Correct. Never actually practiced medicine in that sense. And her license expired in 2024. So you have to ask, how does this stack up against what we normally expect for a surgeon general? Usually you're looking for deep clinical experience or public health leadership, maybe significant research.
It seems quite different, and especially relevant maybe given the previous nominee withdrew because of fabrications, as it was put.
It does create a stark contrast.
And then there are the connections Professor Lin highlights, particularly her association with the Make America Healthy Again, MAHA movement, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Even former President Trump mentioned her impeccable credentials in the MAHA movement.
Yeah, and Professor Lin is pretty direct about MHA. He calls it pseudoscience and anti-medical. And it's not just Lin raising concerns. Criticisms are coming from, well, all over. Former surgeon generals have spoken out. Even some conservative figures like Laura Loomer apparently raised issues about things like promoting mushrooms as medicine or talking to trees.
Interesting range of critics.
Right. And RFK Jr.'s own former running mate opposed the nomination. Peter Lurie, who used to be a deputy commissioner at the FDA, he was very blunt, called her unqualified. Lurie specifically pointed to what he called stunningly misleading views on contraception, raw milk, autism causes, plus promoting supplements and, various conspiracy theories.
So it's a pattern of claims that seem to clash pretty strongly with established medical science.
That seems to be the core criticism. It's less about policy differences and more about foundational disagreements on evidence and science.
Okay, so pulling this all together, Professor Lin's article includes a pretty stark warning. He says, suckers are so numerous that fraudsters are not enough. It's a blunt way of saying there's just so much misinformation out there.
It really is. And it loops back to why critical thinking is just crucial. It's not passive. It means actively questioning what you hear no matter who says it. It means looking for actual verifiable evidence. Especially when it's about our health and the people setting public health policy. It's tough, sifting through everything.
Absolutely. So the main takeaway here for you listening, this deep dive really highlights how important it is to check scientific claims and to really scrutinize the qualifications of public health leaders.
Definitely. And maybe here's a final thought to mull over, something Professor Lin touches on quite provocatively. He remarks pretty bluntly that for some politicians, power is gold, people's health is crap.
Cruel. It kind of pushes us, doesn't it? To think about our own role in demanding that public health decisions are genuinely based on evidence, not just politics or ideology. especially when national health is on the line.